We all have dreams, but dreams by their very nature can be difficult to achieve. That's where Access Credit Union comes in. Whether it's going to college, owning a car, or building your dream home, your local credit union can help you to fulfill your dreams. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Close your eyes and pull like a dog.
And a new Irish record for Phil Healy, 22.99.
Christy Cooney hands over the Sam Maguire Cup to Graham Canty, Cork All-Ireland champions for the 7th time ever.
Hello and welcome to the Star Sport Podcast. My name is Jack McCarran of the Southern Star and I'm joined as always by Star Sport editor Kieran McCarthy. Before we kick things off, I'd just like to give a gentle reminder as always to our listeners and viewers to please rate, review and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and YouTube. The Star Sport Podcast is brought to you by Access Credit Union. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years. What a guest we have for you on this week's Star Sport Podcast. At the 2016 Olympics in Rio, it was Gary and Paula Donovan who changed the game for Irish rowing, picking up the sport's first ever Olympic medal. This time round in Tokyo, the game changers have been the Irish heavyweight four who returned home with Ireland's first ever women's Olympic rowing medal. The old adage that you can't win an Olympic rowing medal without someone from Skibbereen in the boat was once again proved true with Aughadown's Emily Hegarty representing West Cork in the history-making crew. On today's podcast, we'll chat to Emily about their success in Tokyo, how much it meant to her personally, and what the future holds for the Irish four. Kieran, Paula Donovan and Fintan McCarthy have understandably taken most of the column inches in the last fortnight, but what Emily, Afric Kyo, Emer Lam and Fiona Murtagh achieved in Tokyo cannot be understated.
Exactly, Jack, and that's well put. That was Ireland's first ever Olympic rowing medal, and I think, and this is just a personal opinion, in the long run, that the legacy of their their bronze medal will have a bigger effect than the two lads winning gold. I say that because for women's sport and for young girls right across the country, now they've seen these four incredible women go to the Olympics and bring home a medal, and it's the first time Irish women rowers have ever done that at the games. And obviously you've Emily Hegarty from Aughadown and Skibbereen, and you've Emer Lam from Dublin, and you've Fiona Murtagh and Afric Kyo from Galway. So they're four ladies spread in different corners of the country, which I think is quite important too. So it just shows that it can be done. And I think, like I said, there's young girls everywhere now. You don't have to look too far for a role model in Irish women's rowing now. We had Snita Puspura for so long, an incredible rower as well. But now we have these four Irish women who've won an Olympic rowing medal, and it's just great for the sport, because we look back to 2016, the transformative effect that Paul and Gary's Olympic silver had on Irish rowing, and everyone says that's the moment that Irish rowers said, look, yeah, we can win Olympic medals, because it was the first time it happened. Fast forward 5 years later, now we have an Irish women's crew bringing home an Olympic medal. So hopefully that's the catalyst for more to come, because we're looking too at the Olympics just past. 4 of the 6 boats that Ireland sent were women's boats, which is quite encouraging for the future. So I think, yeah, Emily, Fiona, Emer and Afric, the incredible athletes, but their legacy will go long beyond what these medals are.
And like you speak about role models there, and we don't have to look too far back for probably the greatest Irish female sporting role model of the modern era, and that was like when Katie Taylor won gold at the 2012 Olympics in London. Her win had a transformative effect on female boxing, both in Ireland and around the world globally, and we saw a fellow Irish boxer, Kelly Harrington, picking up gold just 8 years after Katie picked up that medal. So the cycle continues, and with this rowing four picking up the first women's medal of any colour at this Olympics, you can only expect, as you said, it's going to inspire the next generation, and probably at the next Olympics or within the next 2 cycles we're going to see more female crews picking up medals on the biggest stage.
Hopefully, and even bringing it closer to home. Let's look at Skibbereen Rowing Club for a second. When Emily was younger, she looked up to Orla Hayes and Denise Walsh, who were the two top oarswomen in the club at the time. And Orla Hayes will actually be competing at the upcoming national champs as well. So they were Emily's role models and heroes in the club, and she wanted to be like them and emulate Orla and Denise. But now we have Emily, we've Aoife Casey, and we've Lydia Heafy, 3 Skibbereen rowers that went to the Tokyo Olympics. So for young girls in Skibbereen Rowing Club, and young boys as well, they don't have to look too far for role models either there, because Emily, Lydia and Heafy, Emily, Aoife and Lydia, that's almost a tongue twister in itself. They've shown what is possible again. But I think Emily's story is a game changer for the club, because she is Skibbereen Rowing Club's first Olympic heavyweight. All the Olympic rowers back to Eugene Coakley, Richie Coakley, Timmy Harnedy, Gary Paul, Finton, even Aoife Casey, Lydia Heafy, they're all lightweights. But Emily is the first Olympic heavyweight from Skibbereen Rowing Club. And as you'll hear from the podcast quite soon in our chat with her, that's important too, because it means that kids don't think you have to be lightweight to go to the Olympics, that you can do it in an open class, a heavyweight class as well. And if we're looking past the Paris 2024 games, heavyweight is going to be the way to go, because it does look like Paris will be the swan song for lightweight rowing. So what Emily has shown as a Skibbereen heavyweight, that you can go from the River Island to the podium in an Olympics in a heavyweight boat. And I think that's quite important for the club as well.
And I think an interesting thing to note about Emily and her story as well, just to get a bit nerdy on this, but one of the most, I think the third most read article on the Southern Star's website in the last month was your piece profiling Emily in the lead up to the Olympics, which kind of gave a bit of backstory and context to Emily and where she'd come from. So could you maybe just tee it up for us based on what you wrote in that piece before we actually hear from her now?
She's given so much to the sport. And we heard from Sean O'Brien, the club captain, on a podcast during the Olympics, where he said that Emily is a natural, that even from the very, very start, Emily just wanted to row. She wanted to get out in the water. She wanted extra training sessions. And she was so dedicated and committed from the very start. She didn't want an 18th birthday party because she was training, I think it was for the Coupe of the World Juniors at the time. But her mom, Mary, and her older sister, Alice, they still organised a surprise 18th birthday party at her home in Aughadown for her. When Emily was studying for her leaving cert, her parents got her a rowing machine for the house. So Emily got up at 5 o'clock in the morning, went on the rowing machine, did a session, did some study, had breakfast, went off to school. Like, that's all before 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. So you can see from a long way out that Emily was very committed, very dedicated. Obviously, she has the natural talent too and the work ethic to go with that. So she ticks all the boxes. She has all the pieces of the jigsaw, and it's taken her from the young girl that joined her own club through the National Schools program to now a West Cork woman who's brought home an Olympic medal to Skibbereen, to Aughadown, to her home in Mahona. So it's just an incredible story. And as you'll hear from her now, she's at home this week. She's enjoying being home, but it won't be long till she's back on the water again, because the Irish Rowing Championships are coming up the week after next, and there's a star-studded affair there. So I think she's still coming to terms with what winning an Olympic medal means to her and even to everyone around her. But she's in great form.
There they are.
Bronze medalist.
Alfred Keogh, Emer Lamb, Fiona Murtagh and Emily Hegarty. Their names are carved in the Roll of Honour of Irish Olympic involvement. What a moment.
We have a real treat for listeners and viewers of the Star Sport podcast this week, because for the first time ever, we have an Olympic Games bronze medalist. We have Emily Hegarty from Skibbereen Rowing Club joining us on the podcast. Welcome, Emily.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
Our pleasure, our absolute pleasure. You're home now a week or so from Tokyo. What's the last week been like?
It's been busy enough, to be fair. I think the majority of it's just been spent catching up with friends and family, really. Haven't done too much rowing yet, so we'll have to give that a bash over the next few days.
What did you look forward to most when you were coming home? Was it going into a cafe? Was it some home cooking at home? Like, what did you miss the most when you were on camp in Italy and then you were in Tokyo for those couple of weeks?
I think it was probably everyone outside of my family I hadn't seen since I'd say before Christmas, just because the COVID risk. I think we'd reached a stage in the year where we kind of knew if we contracted COVID, that was endgame really, like that was the dream gone. Because one of the girls already did get it earlier in the year and it did take her a bit of time to get back, and she's really, really lucky, like the timing of it, that she was able to make it back for March trials, like 100% all good. But no, it was definitely a big worry the past few months.
So when you got back in to Dublin Airport, that was Sunday a week ago, and your mum and dad and family were up there. What was it like to kind of see them, like been away from them for so long, just to see them and come home with that bronze medal as well? It was something very special up there.
Yeah, it was unreal. Like you wouldn't even realise we were gone for nearly 2 months in the end. So that was kind of quite a while without having seen anyone. So no, it was really exciting. It was really lovely as well to get a chance to see like my crewmates and family members as well, because sure I hadn't seen them probably the bones of 2 years since we last competed. So it was definitely really, really nice.
And I think one of the nice touches, Emily, is you that lovely impromptu drive-through in Skibbereen with your mom Mary as the chauffeur, and yourself and Fintan in the back of the car, and you could see the locals coming out just to welcome you home first off, and then just to have a glimpse of the medal side. That must have been quite special as well.
Yeah, it was gas as well. Like there wasn't any room in the car for two of us barely. Like the suitcases were stacked up in the middle of us. But no, it was really, really nice, and like it was a really great way to see a lot of people again for the first time. So no, it was really, really lovely, and it was really great the amount of people who did actually come out to. I was surprised by the amount of people who did come out to see us and everything. So it was exciting.
Have you always been surprised too by the amount? I suppose you were in Tokyo and all the Skibberers, like you were in a bubble in Tokyo, and then you were obviously in bubbles then in your in the camps beforehand. But back home in Skibbereen in West Cork, like it was Olympic mania for those couple of weeks, and people just were so keen and so tuned into what was going on. Could you have any sense over in Tokyo the excitement that was building here at home?
To be honest, I personally don't think I did. I had been kind of like avoiding the phone a little bit coming up to racing, so I didn't really get I didn't really realize it until we came home. But it's gas as well, the amount of like people who'd be down for weekends in Skibbereen the past few weeks. And they're just so surprised by like there's a flag in every house. Like they couldn't believe like the community support there was for the rowers in Tokyo. So that's really, really cool. And just like, yeah, I've kind of been told like Skibbereen's like its own little Olympic village with all the flags and everything. So no, it's unreal to see. And it's really, really nice. It was so nice to come home too.
No, it was incredible for those couple of weeks. And yourself and the Irish Women's 4, you gave us so much to cheer. Like you had an incredible regatta over, getting all the way to the Olympic final, and then winning Ireland's first ever women's rowing Olympic medal, which is incredible. Since you've come home, have you had a chance to watch that final back?
I watched it when we were still out in Tokyo. I haven't watched it back since, no.
Is it something why is that then? Is it something you plan to watch, or you just don't want to watch for a while? Or have you
I've kind of just been taking a break from rowing, to be honest. I will definitely be watching it again. But yeah, no, we watched it the first time and we were like, oof, it's hard to watch. Like, so I'd say we gave nearly all of our poor mothers a heart attack in the first half. So
it was an incredible race. Obviously, the Australia and the Netherlands took the first two positions, but for Ireland to win a women's rowing Olympic medal, like it's an incredible moment for the sport and an incredible moment for the 4V to be in that crew. Could you take sense of it straight away, just how important this success was or could be, or would it take time always to come to terms with that?
I think, to be fair, it's still setting in. But I think, yeah, the fact it is a woman's boat and the fact it's a heavyweight boat and the fact it's a big boat as well, like it's a big crew boat. It's not just, an individual or two individuals. I think that's kind of very promising for like younger people coming up, that there is opportunities kind of across the board in every boat class and in every category. So I definitely think it's exciting coming up, and it's definitely very encouraging for those looking to make the team over the next few years.
Because if we look over the last couple of years, in fairness to Rogue Ireland, they've put a lot into the kind of open weight, and like we'd four kind of heavyweight boats went to the Olympics, and looking past Paris, that's probably going to be the way to go. So it's great to see that all that hard work is paying off, and now there's there's an Olympic medal to show from it, kind of. So that's encouraging too, that the hard work is giving results at the end.
Yeah, and I think not even just this year, like these past few years, like there's been a massive increase in like medals gotten at World Championships, for example, or like results across the board. So yeah, no, it's definitely it's definitely going in the right direction, and it's very exciting, and there's really good work being done by the coaches in Northern Ireland.
I know, incredible. Like, and I think I said to you before, like, it feels like it is a breakthrough moment for the sport. But I just want to ask you as well about your Olympic experience. What was it like over in Tokyo, even staying in the village and so on? What was the whole setup like?
To be honest, I thought it was unreal. I think as well, because it was my first Olympic Games, I know different. I haven't had previous experience of having the freedom or like being able to go to any event you wanted to, or being able to go out to the city. Like, I didn't have that. So to be honest, I didn't really miss it either. Like, obviously I would have loved to have been able to go out and actually see Tokyo for myself. But at the same time, you're so privileged to be there at all. And especially the way things have gone the past few years, that it potentially wouldn't have happened. So I think we definitely just realized how lucky we were, and we just enjoyed every moment, regardless of restrictions that were in place. Like, I honestly can't complain.
Like, we've seen videos, gymnast Reese put up a couple of great videos as well, and it was shown too that the Irish apartment block was right across from the dining hall, but it just looked so class inside there. It looked like you had everything that you wanted. It was, I think the Olympic Village was called a city within a city. So had you great freedom in that city then, just to kind of roam around to the plaza, to the shops, to the dining hall, or how did it all work?
Oh yes, to be fair, I think for our own sakes, we kind of avoided the busier places just in case, even though COVID didn't end up being a massive issue in the end within the village. But we did kind of wait until we were finished racing, until we had a proper explore of the plaza and everything. But to be fair, like most evenings, that was kind of our way to cool off. We'd just go for a walk around the village, and sure, you could be walking for an hour if you wanted to. So no, it was definitely really nice, and like it was such a nice setup in there. Like, there was lovely parks and lovely walkways and everything along the water. So no, we were definitely very, very lucky.
Can you talk me through, so Emily, what a typical race day over was in the Olympic Village? You get up in the morning, and what's the process from getting up then to actually going down to racing in the course?
So we'd usually get up, I think it was kind of like 5:30, 6 o'clock, depending on our racing. And we'd just have our bags packed from the night before, just get dressed, go and have your breakfast, and then go straight from breakfast to the bus. And the bus, to be fair, we were really lucky. It was only less than 20 minutes to the course. And then once we got the course, we got straight in the water and did a pre-paddle, just a 4K leap of the course to get a feel for it. And then once we'd come in, we'd have a bite to eat, so we'd just relax until it was go time again. And then kind of come maybe an hour before we were launching, it was kind of get ready, get warmed up, get dressed, all of that, have your routine kind of done to get ready to go in the water.
And having a look at the course, then we saw a couple. I'm thinking of the Norwegian boat in the lightweight men's double that capsized in the semi-final. What was the course itself like? Because I don't think here at home watching on TV we got a true sense of the wind and how choppy it was. But was there some days it was choppier than others? Was it a hard course to row? What was it like?
I think it was just I think we were lucky that we train in Cork, and the weather is less than pleasant there a lot of the time. So I think we were quite lucky in that we are quite good with rough conditions. But yeah, no, it was always, I think most days, I think both of our race days was always a strong crosswind from kind of the left hand side. So it would be a bit tricky, for example, after steering the boat, like keeping in the buoy lines, because everyone would just kind of drift over across the course, which was a bit challenging. And it was just a case of kind of adapting your rowing to it and just making the best of it. Because I know like there's a lot of crews that should have won gold medals who missed out on medals altogether because the conditions were just a bit hard some days. But no, we're very lucky that we had the skills to cope with that.
You certainly had the skills to cope with it. And let's go to the A final. In those minutes before you were sitting in the boat and you were waiting for the start, can you remember, were you nervous? What were you feeling? Was it just, were you just getting ready to go, getting ready to put it all into action?
I think at the time I was just trying to focus on what I was doing. I think if I had thought 10 minutes ahead, I'd have run away with myself. So I think it was very much like we finished our warm up, we got kitted out, we got dressed, we lined up, and it was just kind of a case of like keeping your mind busy. I feel almost just thinking of, the starting of the first 5 strokes, that kind of being your focus rather than thinking of, the whole race or the outcome. Just kind of like keeping it simple and don't look too far into the future. So I think that was kind of our big focus then. And sure, once you started then, like you're into the thick of it, you don't even realize once you're in it. So it's good.
And have you any memories of actually during the race of Afric saying anything in particular?
I think it was kind of up to halfway. Afric kind of called, we're in 4th. And she kind of was saying China, like she'd taken odd luck and she kind of could see China level with us. I think she knew we were in 5th, but she didn't want to dishearten us by saying we were in 5th. But no, I think then, because we were right next to Great Britain in the next lane, and we could always like we could always see them at the corner of our eye, out of the corner of our eye. And then kind of coming into like the last 750, we were like, you know, this is where our strength is and we're already gaining. Like, I think we were very confident once we had started gaining that we could go through them. So I think it was just sort of a case of making sure that happens and just staying focused and killing ourselves and just don't screw up in the last 100 meters, I think was our focus then towards the end.
You gave it absolutely everything and you got your reward. Like I said, this Olympic bronze medal, a first for Irish rowing and a first for Irish women's rowing. But talk to me about your crewmates, because it came through in all the interviews. You're such a tight-knit group, yourself, Affleck, Fiona and Emer, and you look like you're having so much fun out there as well.
Yeah, no, to be fair, we're really lucky that we do all get along so well. And I think in a case with like rowing where you're together day in, day out, and like you experience within the year, you'd experience so many highs and lows. And I feel like they're highs and lows that you don't get outside of sport, that you wouldn't experience, like, let's say with your friends or anything. Like, it's kind of it's an interesting like bond you'd make with your crewmates. But yeah, no, I'm definitely really, really lucky that we do get along really well, and can't complain there now, to be fair. We do get along very, very well, and we did really, really enjoy the few weeks.
And does that camaraderie, Emily, then, does that make that hard slog that bit more bearable, because you're doing it with people you enjoy being in their company? Because like you all know what rowing, like there's a hell of a lot involved in training. You put so much into it. Like, it's very hard for us on the outside to realise just how much you put in. But when you're training in with the crewmates that you could regard as friends, and you're having that bit of crack along the way, it probably just makes it, like I said, that bit more bearable.
Yeah, definitely. And like as well, we'd always find if one of us, it's usually we take turns having bad days usually. And it's kind of the other three then would pull you out of the gutter as well. So no, it's really, really nice that like you have that kind of relationship, and that it is like, it does work really well for us, to be fair.
How did you feel then coming home? So when you were leaving Tokyo over and you knew you were coming home back to family and friends and back to a great reception, were you just looking forward to getting on the plane and getting back to West Cork?
Yeah, to be fair, it had been kind of long enough since I was home now, so I was definitely really excited to see people on the outside world too.
I know, it's great. Like I said, you got that great reception as well, which was brilliant to see. What's the plan next, kind of in terms of racing coming up? I know Hindley's on this week, but you're not going. Is it the national championships next for you?
Yeah, the national championships, which start Friday week, are my next event. And then kind of once I'm back in college in September, then I'd say training will probably resume as normal, more so than when I'm back in Cork full time.
So you don't have too much time to let the hair down, so.
Sorry?
You don't have too much time to let the hair down.
Sure, we'll find time, don't worry.
And just looking at the national championships for a second, you'll be rowing for UCC Rowing Club. Just explain that for us, yes. Because you're on a Quirker scholarship with UCC. So how does all that work?
Yeah, so to be fair, I'm really, really lucky I'm in a Quirker scholarship. So basically Michelle Power and Elaine, who kind of look after us there, they're just really, really good to us. And I think there was 7 of us on Quirker scholarships who were at Tokyo this past summer, because it is a massively successful program, and they do really, really look after us in terms of getting the balance between college and sport right, or kind of catering, if we did need to do exams abroad or anything. They're so good for helping us organise that, or like stay in contact with our lecturers, making sure we don't kind of fall behind and making sure we just get the best out of both. So that's a massive, massive benefit. And sure, we also get to represent UCC then kind of on bigger stages, and just we are so lucky to be on the programme, because they do really, really look after us, and we do kind of thrive from it essentially, because you would get bogged down by both so easily. So it's just so good that we have the help there.
It's great to have that support from UCC, and it means too that UCC have a stacked lineup for the national championships, and what a chance it's going to be kind of between the women and the men. Like, there's Olympians, there's medalists. It's going to be an incredible championship. So do you know yet what events and what boats you'll be racing in?
I think I'm in the pair, the 4 and the 8, so all the sweep events.
So you've a nice busy weekend coming up. So
yeah, exactly, racing every day.
And just bringing it back to Skibbereen Rowing Club for a second, and we've talked before about, I suppose, the women role models in that club. We've had the likes of Orla Hayes and Denise Walsh, and even go back to the very start, Nuala Lupton was the club's first ever national champ winner and first ever international oars person, and we've had Grania O'Donovan, the pocket rocket, back in the early 90s as well. Like, there's been some incredible female rowers in Skib coming up along. Who were some of the women that you looked up to, Emily?
I think definitely at the time I came in, Orla Hayes and Denise Walsh were the bee's knees. Like you wanted to row like them, you wanted to train like them. So yeah, they were definitely my big inspiration my first few years of rowing. And like they were so good to us too as youngsters. Like they'd always take time to coach us about when both of us needs be. Like they were so good to us like the whole way along. So yeah, no, I was really lucky to have them early on.
And I know we were talking for a piece before the Olympics, and we were saying that you were the club's first ever Olympic heavyweight, which is such an important moment too for the club, because like you said, it just gives kids options. You think of Skibbereen Rowing Club, you think of all the lightweights that have gone before, but there's more than just lightweights to Skibbereen Rowing Club and rowing, and especially going forward. So that's why your story, I think, Emily, is so important, because you've shown that there's a different path. You don't have to be lightweight.
Yeah, I think kind of when I was a junior coming up through it and like moving on to senior, I think it was quite daunting, like that I'd be the first person kind of not taking it on as such, but even like at the time there was only Sunita was kind of the only Irish international heavyweight. So it did kind of feel like there wasn't an end goal there, like that it wasn't really an option for a while. Like there wasn't even a team to kind of start training with or anything at the time. So I'm so lucky, like at the time I came and like there's a massive group of girls training there all the time and boys as well. So no, it's definitely a prospect for the future. And I like, it's exciting that, it's so visible there for younger kids coming up who might be a bit off the heavyweight bracket or the lightweight bracket like I was.
I know, it's brilliant. Like, I just feel it's such an important moment. And I've said it before, I do think the women's 4 bronze year medal, the impact it could have and the legacy it could have on the sport and young girls coming up is incredible. So huge congrats to all of you involved. And I have to ask you too, Skib now has the Olympic set, gold, silver and bronze. Like, it's incredible that the club has these 3 Olympic medals. Where were you when Fenton and Paul won the Olympic gold? Were you able to get down to the course, or where could you watch it?
I was in Calbo's Cafe for the semi-finals anyway. I watched that while I was working. And then for the final, I think because me and Eve Casey were training for the Junior World Champs at the time. So I think we were actually at the rowing centre the day of the final, training away. And sure, it was kind of hard to get training then after watching the race, but the excitement with it. But yeah, no, I was actually in the rowing centre the day of the final.
And to think where you were in 2016 watching it, and then fast forward 5 years later, and you're actually in Tokyo winning an Olympic medal yourself, and you were there too to see Paul and Fenton win gold in the lightweight men's double as well. For that final, so Emily, did you watch it back in the village, or could you get down to the course to watch it, or where did you see that bit of history unfold?
We actually, because we you could only go to your events venues, so we actually were really lucky. We got to hop on a bus. We were the first day finals, so we hopped on the bus the next 2 days to get to the course to watch all the finals in person. So no, we were lucky that way. And no, it was unreal to see as well. Like, it was another kind of like super exciting race, and it was just really, really great to actually be there as well. Like, because so many people at home would have loved it, and like that option wasn't there for them. So no, we definitely appreciated being able to actually be there in person and watch it happen.
You had a front row seat to another moment in history too, which is incredible. And I know Paris 2024 is 3 years away, and it's very, very early to ask this question, but is that now a target for you, like a long-term target? Obviously, there's a lot of short-term targets between now and then, but is Paris 2024 something that's on your mind already?
I think it's hard for it not to be at the moment, especially with this shorter cycle. And I think, I'll stay training and I'll stay in Cork for the next 3 years. And if it happens, it happens. And sure, I'll just give my best shot to be there, definitely.
I know it's been an incredible couple of weeks, incredible couple of months, an incredible year for you, Emily, from the Europeans to qualifying in Lucerne to go to Tokyo to bring home an Olympic bronze medal. So, no, again, huge congratulations. It's brilliant to be able to talk to an Olympic medalist on the podcast and have an Olympic medalist here at home in West Cork. So huge congrats again. Best of luck in the champs, and we'll chat again soon.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
We all have dreams, but dreams by their very nature can be difficult to achieve. That's where Access Credit Union comes in. Whether it's going to college, owning a car, or building your dream home, your local credit union can help you to fulfill your dreams. Access Credit Union, funding dreams for over 50 years.
Now, Kieran, quickly to wrap up this week's episode, let's take a quick look at this week's edition of the Southern Star Sports section, which will, of course, be available in shops and online from Thursday morning.
The Olympics might be over, Jack, and we might be having withdrawal symptoms, but our Olympic coverage is far from finished. So we have an interview with Paul O'Donovan in this Thursday Southern Star when he's talking just about himself and rowing. It's a good read. There's good stuff in that. We also have news about the upcoming Irish Rowing Championships, where so many of the Irish Olympic rowers will be in action, and there's some huge battles coming up there. Like in the men's lightweight single, you've Paul up against Fintan, up against Jake, up against Gary. So you've the four lads who are battling for those 2 seats in that Olympic boat, racing each other in a single, which is incredible. Forget the national title for a second. There's bragging rights, big bragging rights up for grabs right there. As well as that, Phil Healy landed back home to West Cork on Saturday, and she got a hero's reception in Ballineen in a skiing, and so she should. Phil obviously competed in 3 events at the Olympics and did so well. So it's worth checking out for that. We had our photographer Martin Walsh there on the night capturing these great images. And just when we're talking about Phil Healy, I just want to plug actually for a second, Jack, Bandon AC's fundraiser. We've talked about this before. The club is fundraising to build a new track and its first home in West Cork, and they've a GoFundMe page up and running at the moment just to raise a bit of money for this track development. So it's well worth checking out. If anyone can, just to go on and donate, to just go up to GoFundMe.com and search for Bandon AC Track Fundraiser, because it's incredible to think that Phil Healy, who did so well at the Olympics, competed in 3 events on the track there. When she grew up here in West Cork, that there's no full-size track in West Cork. Even right now, kids from Bandon AC have to travel to the city to get access to a full track. So what Bandon are doing now in building their own home and this new development, it's brilliant to see, but they need help along the way. So if you can, head on to GoFundMe.com and make a donation. As well as that, the Cork hurlers, Jack, are through to the All-Ireland final. They had a superb win against Kilkenny last Sunday. What an epic game. So we've all the news and reaction from that. And the final against Limerick won't be long coming at all. We've also a full-page interview with Emer Scally, the Cork ladies footballer, who is back in the panel this year, and she's chatting to us ahead of their All-Ireland semi-final against Meath. That's now been moved to Croke Park this Sunday at 3:30 p.m. A lot of local GA action as well, and we've reports from Ivaleri within the county junior A title and going up to intermediate. It was a busy weekend in the junior A football championship, so there's so much going on across so many different sports. So this Thursday's Southern Star is packed.
And as always, if you can't make it to a shop, you can always purchase the Southern Star online via our superb e-edition. Just go to www.southernstar.ie/e-paper and read the Southern Star on your computer, tablet or smartphone for less than €2 per week. There's also a free magazine in this week's Southern Star. It's the West Cork Property Magazine. So if you're into property porn and snooping on other people's homes, this is the magazine for you. So that's free with this week's paper. So great value as always. Thanks for listening to the Star Sport Podcast. We'll be back at the same time next week with a special All-Ireland final preview episode. If you enjoy these shows, please make sure to rate, review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube or wherever else you get your podcasts. Slán Tamil.